everyone? Welcome to the Tim Radio Show. I'm your host, Tim Radio. There's going to be another good episode, some funny clips in this. So let's just get started with this Joe Biden clip. This guy's full of gaffes. Every time he speaks, he's all over the place. He can't finish a sentence properly. He can't keep his mind straight. The guy's done. He's over with. I don't understand why they're even letting this guy go around. But check this out. This is just ridiculous.
And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand, and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. And I tell you what.
I didn't see this next clip. Let's see what this next one compilation. No, screw it. Yeah, so he has just ridiculous stuff. I have this other one here ready. Just creepy because I call him creepy Uncle Joe.
He leans down, smells my hair, and then plants this big long kiss on the top of my head.
I think he is actually going to kiss me. He started rubbing noses with me, and he was still holding onto my face and rubbing noses.
Spread your legs, you're going to be frisked. You stand right in front of me. Right. Come on. You got something. Come on. Is this balanced? Molly, come over by me. Come on over here. Stand right next to me. There you go.
Hold the Bible.
Grandpa's one of those guys.
That's nice of you to say.
No, I'm not saying it.
And he always does that to kids, man.
He
Weird.
is extremely affectionate, extremely flirtatious in a completely safe way.
Oh, yeah. Come on. How can they say that about one person and someone else does it? They're like, oh my God, look, he's a pedophile.
Joe Biden didn't do anything that's, anywhere near.
And actually, the media won't even mention anything about pedophiles and stuff. They won't actually say that because there's so much of that in these companies on high levels, like really rampant stuff. So they actually won't say that. They'll just say he's sexist or misogynist or, something like that. Just like with Trump, like when Trump had that whole video about grabbing by the, what, and he's just like shooting off. And I should actually play the whole clip because the whole clip's actually worse than the snippet that they played. Like that's kind of the tidbit that kind of sounds bad, but the whole clip is actually pretty bad. Like he says quite a bit of bad stuff in about a 2-minute window, and then even if you analyze the interaction when he comes off the thing and off the bus, like it's weird. But anyway, they just ate him alive for that, and that's just him talking about it. This is, imagine if there's a compilation video of him grabbing girls' hair and stuff like that.
To that.
And he always tells girls, no dating until you're 30. See that guy? That dad's a beta. He should be saying right now, get out of here. Push him. I don't care if you're vice president, man. Get out of here. I'm kissing my kid, you freak. Even the son over there was like, huh? It's a rubbing. Soft touching. Oh, this is a good one.
Hey.
That actually goes on for a lot longer. Hillary Clinton tabs on it. She's just standing there and he keeps holding her up.
Are you bored yet?
You say behind me?
Isn't it kind of
Look, see, the kid's scared, man. They're like, what is?
boring? You say this is boring stuff, Mom. 4 granddaughters. Beautiful granddaughters like you guys. And guess what?
It's not his granddaughter.
About age 12. Oh, what my dad used to say, granddaughters have one important job. Take care of the father. The most important one.
Hey,
All right.
Watch where you're walking. I mean, that's just, you know, something weird about that, man. But anyway, I want to play this. I just thought this was funny. There's this clip of this old woman getting upset, and they're just saying she sounds like Mickey Mouse.
In Arkansas, my brother was her lawyer.
It's like a Hillary supporter. She's like talking about her brother was Hillary's lawyer when she was in Arkansas, presumably when Bill Clinton was the governor there or whatever. And my niece babysat Chelsea, so they just keep saying all this stuff. Like, no, I don't know what she's defending or not, but someone made this good.
In Arkansas, my brother was her lawyer. He was lawyer of the year. He represented Hillary. You got my niece babysat Chelsea. You guys don't have a clue what's going on in Arkansas. You're nuts. Bullshit. Where's the evidence?
Bullshit. Where's the evidence?
My brother protected Hillary. Hillary.
And then after a while, the cop just kicks her out. You know,
Arkansas. We love President Trump.
Cops is like, moving along.
And President Trump loves you. He fights like crazy to keep America free. And President Trump loves you. He fights like crazy to keep America free. Impeach. Right down. Impeach.
She's gonna fall over as she gets there.
He's fighting for America. God bless President Trump and God bless America.
Some people can't handle it. I do this in video games sometimes. I just say, I can just say something as simple as 4 more years, and people will get upset. You just say 4 more years, and they know what you're talking about. So check this out. This is going to be some creepy stuff now. So there's this thing in China right now called the social credit system. So it's like a credit score, just like if you have a credit card and you have a score like a 700 credit score, the bank considers that when they're looking at whether or not to give you a loan or a credit card, whatever. Most people get that. But China has a social credit score system now where if you cross the street, jaywalk, they got cameras everywhere. Like, it's loaded with cameras. It's basically 2 people for every camera. So they got hundreds of millions of cameras all over China, especially like in the cities and everything like that. So they have all this technology hooked up. Facial recognition is perfected. They got that nailed down. They don't mistake people. And we're talking about like gigapixel cameras. These aren't megapixels. Like, you remember when you get an old camera, it'd be like, how many megapixels did it have? That's basically the resolution of the camera, like how much you can zoom in, what the original photo size would be. So if you actually look at it at 100%, it might be, a 12 megapixel camera might be like, maybe 5 feet from corner to corner. Like, it would be a very big high resolution photo. But now they got these high resolution cameras that, you can zoom in a mile away and look in someone's window. So if you do that, if you take a picture of someone like 10 feet away of their face, the amount of data that you get on that photo is insane. So anyway, their facial recognition is extremely, like, damn near perfect. So anyway, they have a social credit score system that takes that into consideration, matches it with your ID. And if you do something wrong, like buy too many video games, buy too much junk food, if you call someone on your phone that has a bad social credit score, or if you do any of these things, it'll reduce your score. Your score goes down. And if you don't have a high enough score, they will stop you from getting things from like high-speed rail tickets. They have a fantastic high-speed rail system there. Like, you can go in and out of the airports and stuff. The thing goes like 600 kilometers an hour or something like that. It just flies. It's insane. And it's like those maglev ones that are actually hovering or whatever. So they stop people from doing that. They stop people from flying. I think it was something like 2.5 million people they stopped because their credit score system wasn't their credit score wasn't high enough to be able to purchase those tickets, so they stopped 2.5 million people. And I think this was just in 1 month. They said like it was either 6 months or 1 month, I forget, but it was millions of people that they stopped, and they're like, yeah, it works. Well, now they're requiring it so that if you buy a phone, that you have to actually get the phone registered in order to purchase it. So you won't be able to just buy a phone, like the whole idea of like a burner phone. You won't be able to do that anymore. You buy the phone. In order to activate the phone, you'll have to take a voice. Sorry, not voice. Facial recognition. It's not a picture of your face. It's you have to turn your head, have it scan your face, and blink a few times. And it doesn't just take a picture and do it that way. It's actually video, but it also gets the other data that the phone has. So a lot of times that can be basically laser data. You know what I mean? So it could be, or even 3D, because a lot of the phones now have actually 2 cameras in it, so it can actually see 3D. So just things like that. So it'll actually take all that data, not just the facial scan, and presumably even the biometric scan of your fingerprint, if you use a fingerprint to unlock it. So anyway, all these things are tied together now, and so people are really worried on 5G for 2 reasons. 5G is this new technology coming out with a new wave of smart devices that accept this new network, and the new network would be you had 3G, 4G, then you'll have 5G, which just stands for generation. It's just 5th generation, just like they have the 7G iPhone, 7th generation iPhone. It's not a 7G phone, but so it's kind of confusing like that. But when they say 3G on your phone and 4G on your phone, that's different waves of wireless data. So they're changing. There's a whole frequency of basically airwaves that we can send data through. So just like your antenna on your TV, the bunny ears, it picks up the radio or whatever. These those radio towers and stuff operate within a certain frequency, right? And we've tested those frequencies. We know that if you get too close to them, you can have some troubles with health and stuff like that if you're sitting underneath one of these radio towers that are pumping out because it's high energy and stuff like that. But you get a certain way, it doesn't affect anything. It's pretty harmless. There's no problem. There's radio all over the world, and it doesn't hurt anything. So there's that. And then they kind of increased it. So it got more refined, and they opened up parts of the spectrum as some of the spectrum gets polluted and filled up, and a cell phone company buys a sliver of that spectrum so that they can operate in that spectrum. Then that gets more and more polluted, so they can't really do any more in that spectrum anymore. They got to change it to a new spectrum and send the data in this spectrum now. So basically now where they're at is this very fine, with a very high frequency, short range frequency that they're looking at. So they're looking at something very dense. It's closer to a microwave than it is to a radio wave. It's very fine. It's very short wave. It's and it doesn't travel very far, and it gets blocked by things very easily. So that's the whole idea of that. You have to have all these 5G nodes everywhere. So it's little boxes. They'll just put every block, and it's a boom, 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 and it'll just go all the way, all through the city. And then that way they can upgrade the lights. They can upgrade smart meters on the road for parking. They can do all these different things. The city will be able to get all this extra data from, because there's this localized, very dense network operating. But so some people are worried that this is going to be sitting outside their window when they're sleeping, and it's just going to be super high frequency radio waves just bombarding them. And we've seen this with people. With cell phones in general, your cell phone produces the same kind of wave from it, electromagnetic waves, that if you hold this on your chest for a while, you'll metastasize tumors, and just things will you'll have health problems exactly where you have your phone. Hard spots. Could even be tumors and stuff like that. All the bank people that used to use high traders and stuff that were using the Bluetooth devices when they first came out, and they didn't really have a lot of refinement on the Bluetooth device itself. The thing was and it's not so much the Bluetooth wave that's the problem, it's the emitter of the Bluetooth wave. That's what people kind of confuse sometimes. So when they have this thing sitting in their ear, and it's just sending the Bluetooth wave back and forth to the device, it's not so much that it's the actual wave that's passing through. It's the fact that this emitter is sitting in your ear, and it's a high frequency burst. So every time every millisecond that it's sending out this frequency, it's actually emitting electromagnetic energy as well. That it's pressed up inside your eardrum, and so it's just going right into your brain, and you're just cooking inside your brain. So people are actually, all these guys, it was like they're 3,000 times more likely to get brain cancer than anybody else because they were using these Bluetooth ear devices for like 12, 18 hours a day, like just not even taking them out. So anyway, there's two parts to the whole 5G issue with rolling out this technology. The health implications that might be as a result of broadcasting high energy radio waves, short band high frequency radio waves, all over the place constantly. There's the other part of the privacy aspect of it, meaning that you can implement this technology into virtually anything. The ability to put it into a doorway or into a shopping cart or into whatever you want. You can implement this technology into it and pass this kind of data through, because you'll have all these kind of points of all these nodes, and then not only that, but since these nodes are going to be so dense, that's the network that you can interact with. So it's almost like having free Wi-Fi everywhere. So if you can imagine, if there's free Wi-Fi everywhere, the kind of apps and things that you could make, the kind of services that you can make, the kind of cool things you could get on your phone, if the person selling the service knows that you're always going to have internet connection. Smart fridges and all these kind of things will just be by default because it'll cost nothing to do it because the network is there. Right, that's the expensive part, is actually sending the information back and forth, not actually allowing you to send the information back and forth. So that's kind of a bit of rant, but it's kind of a bit of a backdrop for these next couple things here. So I want to play this clip here. Well, I'm just going to save it because you can watch the full clip in the description below. But basically, they pulled this guy. The police pulled this. This is in China. They pulled this guy in. He was shooting off. They have like two main chat apps, or like kind of Facebook type apps, because you can't get Facebook in China. There's the Great Firewall of China, which is basically they have their own internet. You cannot be in China on an internet service there and connect to Facebook or Google. It does not work. You have to use something like a VPN, a virtual private network, and dupe it and try to, and it hides what you're actually doing. But technically, like if you go to school, library, not anything like that, you just go on any phone, any internet connection at all. You cannot access Facebook, Google, YouTube, nothing like that. They have their own versions of that, and the things are called WeChat and QQ. So anyway, this guy's on there. There's like a group of 75 people. Someone shares a picture of like police confiscating a motorcycle, and he shoots off like in the comments saying, cops are stupid, they're dicks, blah blah blah, something like that. He doesn't actually quote what he says, and the cops bring him in and say, hey, why you badmouth the police? Why do you hate the police? Why would you say that? And he's like, I'm sorry, I was drunk, I was just being stupid. And the cops just keeps asking him like, do you have a problem with cops? Why would you say this? What was it, just a joke? What's wrong with this? And they just keep asking these questions. Now, the creepy part is the fact that, first of all, not like you can't shoot off about cops now. I mean, imagine if this was in the States, half the things people say about cops. I mean, there's people protesting a couple of years ago saying, something about frying pigs in blankets, or whatever, something like that. And talk about like killing cops and stuff. And then actually someone went and killed a cop. And they didn't even get in trouble for the free speech stuff because they have free speech laws. Now, in this case, this guy's talking on just a private conversation with other people. Someone ratted him out, presumably, or they have essentially spies in all these groups, people that they'll join any group just to see if anybody says something and tell, look, that's how this operates. This whole social credit system actually incentivizes being a rat, because if you're caught not ratting on someone, then you get penalized. So it's almost like self-preservation that you have to kind of rat on somebody if you see them doing something bad, because like if you don't, you're going to get docked, right? The guy's going to pull you down with them. So this guy's apologizing. He's just, oh, I'm sorry. And look, man, they got him like locked up. Like they don't even have him just in cuffs sitting there. They got him like, I mean, that's unreal. Like you can't even scratch your head or something. That's unbelievable. So And we're gonna do this a little more. I want to play this clip here because this is actually really, you should watch the full clip. You can watch the full interview with this guy. He wrote a book, kind of about this whole topic here. I'm gonna try and get the book. I'm gonna read it. I'll let you know what it's like. But here, just play this clip of it.
Politics has constantly been changing.
All right, so I'll just leave that off for a minute because I don't want to show ads in it. But just in a side clip, this guy, they're talking about like this guy getting a haircut here, and he's just I don't know what the show's for, but this homeless guy this guy's giving him a haircut. It's kind of a show, like a YouTube thing, I guess. And to giving this homeless guy a haircut, and the guy starts talking about how they're talking about putting chips in them, like in Austin, Austin, Texas, how they have this program where they're going to start chipping all the homeless people, putting chips in their skin so that they can scan them if there's a problem, if they have medical issues. The cop can just go wave the thing on their arm, and then they can say, oh, okay, this guy, he's a schizophrenic, he has these allergies, he can't have this, he has these services, he lives in this location, etc., etc. And that's what they're selling it as, like, oh, this way of, taking care of people and offer them services and all this kind of stuff. But here, I'm going to play this part here.
Huawei builds the pipes. Then, because you're behind the Great Firewall, you built the app services and business models of the 5G world. And you're, like I said, you're already starting to see that. Where your facial recognition is built into your interaction when you go into a restaurant, or when you go into a store, or when you go into a bank. Everything's about, the devices connected. Then, as you build the network, then those proliferate. So, 4G network, 10,000 devices per square mile. 5G network, 3 million devices per square mile. You're not going to carry 12 smartphones. You may not even carry a smartphone.
10,000 to 3 million?
10,000 to 3 million. That's what 5G does. The connectivity explodes. Right? So that allows you to put devices literally everywhere that can make your life more convenient or can track you. There's a bike in DC. It's called Mobike. Have you seen these things? They're silver and orange. Look out for them next time you're in DC. They're silver and orange, called Mobike. They had them when I was in 2016 when I get to Beijing. You take your phone, and by the way, I took a phone, right, a phone that I threw away when I got home, and I had said,
you threw it away when
I threw it away when I got home. Load all the apps on it that a Chinese person has so I can understand what they do. You never have to carry a wallet. You never have to carry a key. It's all done on your phone. You can pay anybody, anywhere for anything, and they do. 900 people are on WeChat.
And I was actually in China in several different cities, and you could literally go to like what would be the little noodle shack, like some 90-year-old grandmother, little noodle shack, like maybe 6 seats or something like that. How do you pay? With your phone. She's got the little swipe thing. You just swipe the thing, boom. You like basically scan a QR code. They show you, they punch it in, scan the QR code, and then it just comes out of your account. So even like the little side shop, the little pizza shop, the little whatever, even they're starting to convert over to this. And I didn't see a pizza shop, but all these noodle shops and stuff like that. And it would just be like this little grungy, dirty little crap hole. And they got the little WeChat or Alibaba Pay. Alipay. And Alibaba is basically the Chinese Amazon. They have a slightly different model. It's like decentralized. So instead of them shipping out everything, they basically outsource all that shipping to everybody. But they're way bigger than Amazon.
And they spend 90% of their time in app doing things, or ordering airline tickets, buying food, whatever you want. You can
and this is essentially what the guy was talking him. The other guy that we saw that got arrested by police there, he was in one of these chat rooms just like this, and he just like says, "Oh man, those stupid police, they did this, huh?" And this is all scanned. This is all available to the government. The government can query all of this data at any moment. It's all saved. It's all logged. They can go back 20 years and see something that you wrote. This post right there, no problem.
Anything
900 people or 900 million?
900 million people. Okay, so let me explain to you how effective what they built is. I have one of the guys working for me on one of these Mobikes. Now, the Mobike it's just parked there in the street with a lock on it. You go over, you hit a QR code on your phone, it unlocks the bike, you get on it, you ride it, and you lock the bike. Okay, so where does that data go? They know it's you. You got on that bike, you went 2 locations, okay, or you went to a location, so that data is available. So I have one of my guys, he gets on a mobike, rides somewhere, has his iPad in the basket, gets off the bike, comes back to the embassy, and realizes, I forgot my iPad. Goes into the regional security office and says, I forgot my iPad and my bike. Calls a local public security bureau, and those guys call the guy that's got his iPad on his phone, on his cell phone, and say, can you bring the iPad back to the embassy?
So, just to kind of clarify what he's saying there, basically, he or his employee or whatever forgets an iPad on the bike, right? Goes back to the embassy or whatever, and they're like, oh, we got to go find it. They call, basically, the cops end up calling the person that's currently on the bike. Because they know who it is. They know who the next guy who's riding the bike right now. Boom, call him. Like, no warrant, nothing. Just, hey, call the guy. Hey, you got an iPad on the bike? Oh, yeah, there is one here. Oh, yeah, bring it back to this place. It's not yours. Yeah, okay, cool. And if it's not there, then boom, they know who was last to ride it. So it's like this kind of seamless integration of data to the point where it's like pure mark of the beast kind of stuff. You can't do anything without being part of this data stream. So it's like and it's not just a data stream in the sense that, oh, you got to like punch in a password to access your stuff. There's no opt-in, opt-out. It's just passive. It's just a passive system where you walk outside, the camera's already got your face. It already knows where you're going. The system's already calculating. It's already trying to figure out what discounts to give you, who to sell what to who, in which case and why, and all this kind of stuff. And that's kind of one of the other things, too. Look at this. Data on your spending habits could be a gold mine for banks. They currently do not do this in certain cases. Some data they do sell, some they don't. But now they're actually turning it into market data. So this is where they're starting to change. Instead of financial services information that the banks would use to try to give you better loans and rates and determine if you're good, good paying your credit score, blah, blah, blah. Instead of just that kind of stuff, they're actually talking about integrating this with retailers, like big retailers, and essentially doing like this kind of couponing thing. So based on your spending habits, what you like, what you don't like, they'll be more likely to give you an offer that wouldn't be for someone who doesn't show that kind of data trend. And so the banks are looking at leveraging that. So now you're going to actually start getting, and this is why go check the terms and conditions on cashback. Go check the terms and conditions on cashback. I guarantee you in those cashback cards, it tells you the data that they accumulate as a result of your purchase history is sold. That'll be they'll say in ways like, we may use the information provided anonymized, purchase history, in order to better serve you products to ourselves and affiliates. Like they'll always say affiliates. You know what I mean? Like they just code everything in this language that's just like, oh, that sounds kind of like doctor speak. I don't know really what they're saying, but they're just saying we're selling your data. When you go into a store and you get like a points card, the whole reason they give you the points card is because they're not allowed to track that data from card to card to card. So like when you go spend money on your credit card, they can't save that purchase history and then, send you a coupon saying, hey, we noticed that you spent this on your credit. They couldn't do that before. So that's why they started issuing loyalty cards or point cards, like at the gas station or at the grocery store. It's not a loyalty card. It's a data tracking tool. It's their ability to see, okay, if I have this brand, if I have 2 brands of cereal and this customer always uses this brand of cereal, we know they use this brand of cereal because it's saved in their points card. They got points for it every time. So we know they buy this cereal. If we do a sale, are they likely to change those spending habits? So they can calculate the difference that happens when they run different types of promotions. And they can't do that if it's just your credit card or if you go pay cash. But now, if you have a points card, even if you pay cash, it's still logged. Your receipt is basically saved in the system in data, and they know everything you've ever bought. Now, the banks are going to start doing that directly. That's what they're admitting. They're saying it right now, that they're going to start and they already started doing this in a lot of cases with the points, not the points, the cashback. So 2% cashback, you get 2% cashback. Cool. It's not a loyalty. It's not a loyalty reward. They're selling, but at least in this case, they're actually selling your data and giving you something for it. They're actually paying you for the data. They're quite directly paying you for the data. Because if you don't spend something, they don't give you the cash back, and if they don't give you the cash back, they don't get the data. So that kind of makes sense. On Facebook and stuff like that, they sell you ads all day long, and all you get is free access to the platform. You can make the free calls, free chats, free post images for free, upload videos for free, do all this kind of stuff for free, but they're selling your data, the who, what, where, when, why of your life, basically cataloged for as long as you're on there. So that's creepy, right? Now, roll back to the 5G thing. Now imagine this implemented 5G passive on everything. You walk into a restaurant, the thing you just walk out and it charges you for the food. They don't need to ring it up. They don't need to do anything. It's just, what would you like? You like this? Okay, cool. Boom, here you go. Meal, done. And then you just literally walk out and it'll bill you. And that'll happen for everything. So they'll sell it to the I'm thinking real estate companies, the retail companies. It's like, oh, it'll stop theft, it'll stop dine and dash, it'll increase profits, it'll reduce costs, it'll do this, it'll do that. And so they'll buy into it, right? Just like the WeChat thing, all those little shops, they just go to the shop and like, look, this is going to be so much easier. And really, you have to now, because if you don't, we're going to keep auditing you. We're going to keep checking. We're going to keep looking. Because there's no reason you wouldn't be. So they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing until they literally have everything tracked. Every breath you take, they'll calculate it. They'll calculate how much carbon you fart out, how much methane you fart out. Eventually the sewage system, like you have smart meters on your house for electricity, they're gonna have smart meters on your sewage pipes. And so if you're flushing your toilet too much with toxic stuff, you're gonna be charged. If your poops are just too gross, then they're gonna charge you. If you use too much toilet paper, they're gonna charge you. And they even did this with cars. Like, they started doing this cars. You put the little module in your car, you let them track your car, and you can get a discount. Right? I mean, think about that. You let them track you, and they'll give you a discount. It's unbelievable. And they said, like, well, we're not going to make people do it. We're not going to force people to take it. But you kind of are when you're saying you don't get the discount if you don't do it. That's kind of the same as saying you have to pay to not do it. You have to pay to opt out. I mean, but I mean, that's where they're going. That's where they're taking this stuff. And soon they won't even need to put the thing in the car. It's just the cameras everywhere will just track your car wherever it goes. It doesn't matter. You can drive in circles all around the city all day long. There's going to be a perfect route of you, even if an old clunker. You don't even need to have a smart car or nothing. It'll know your route everywhere. And it'll actually know whether or not it's you driving because your cell phone's being tracked at the same time, or because of the facial recognition, or because an internet device pinged in a location at a certain time. They're like, yep, no, that's definitely that guy. And then you try to use that in court, and they're like, dude, we got your whole history here. We even got your Bitcoin account. Like, we know that that's your address, and look, you got $8 million in Bitcoins in your account. Why are you in possession of that wallet if it's not your cash, right? That's basically what it's going to be. If you had a big giant bag of cash, like $10,000 cash in it, and you're just walking around downtown, and the cops pull you over, and they're like, hey, we saw you we saw you jaywalk down the street here. The system flagged you, and that's a suspicious package, so we want to check it. So the cops pull up next to you, open up the bag, it's $10,000 cash. That cash is gone. Totally gone, right? They're taking it. You're not allowed. You can't just walk around with that kind of money unless you got some receipt for something somewhere. The same thing's going to happen with Bitcoin. So if you actually have Bitcoin, nobody knows where and what, who, what, where, when, why is going on with the money. You have a secret code, right? Only you know the code, and it's just a random address. And if you want to send to somebody else, you just get their code and you can send the money to them. And so only you two know each other's addresses. Okay, cool, that's fine. All the transactions you do, blah, blah, blah. 10 years, you buy drugs from somebody. 10 years later, they find out that this is your address. This is your wallet, your ID, whatever, your code. then they can go pull up in the system the entire history of every Bitcoin transaction ever made, and they can find every transaction that you made. And if they don't know who the address is that this one is, doesn't matter. If they know whose address that you sent to at some point, it'll be in the system. Every single transaction is logged in Bitcoin forever. That's kind of its whole value. It's a public ledger. It's a public receipt system. It's like a never-ending Walmart receipt that every purchase that has ever been made is on there with the credit card number. People don't know that that's your credit card number necessarily until they find the credit card with your name on it. And actually, Bitcoins don't contain personal data, so they don't actually have your name or anything. But it's just like a bag of cash on the street. If you got caught with that bag of cash, you're being treated as if you got that much cash. And you're either paying tax on it when they find it, or they're just taking it. They're just going to straight up take it. And I was wondering, because I actually went to China and I saw like a bunch of Bitcoin stuff, and I was wondering, why are they letting this? This seems like this was kind of made as a point for like libertarians. They want to get out of the system. They want to get away from banks. They don't trust the system. They don't want to trust, Bank of America or MasterCard with their data. And just like all this stuff I'm talking about, look, the credit card company's stealing your data. Bitcoin, they can't steal your data. Keep your thing private. Nobody will ever know what you purchase. It's, nobody's monetizing it. Nobody gets to steal that stuff. But then it clicked. That's the whole mark. That just comes back full circle. That's the mark of the beast stuff right there when they're talking about you have to... The whole thing's locked in forever, first of all. And the Chinese government actually wants this to happen. They just don't want to be the ones to push it because then it's clearly for control. But if they just let it bubble up and let people adopt it, and it kind of becomes like the way to kind of fight the system, then even as the Chinese are rebelling against the government, they're actually walking into their own trap, locking themselves up, essentially. So by adopting Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general, not just Bitcoin, but by adopting cryptocurrency, they're basically putting the 666 on their forehead and saying, I can't do anything unless I do it this way. And then the government's going to be like, okay, you can have that. We're going to let you do it. Fine, we'll give in, I guess. Just keep doing things like you're supposed to, and then you'll have to take your picture with your face. That's automatically associated with your Bitcoin address. Boom, it's game over. Right, you're back to square one again. It's totally bizarre, man. It's totally bizarre. There's so this was another article. This is kind of like a 3-part article there. Yeah. So, I mean, there was another clip there. I think I must have clicked off of there. Yeah, we'll watch this.
And we'll be faced with equally consequential decisions in the 21st century. Can a microscopic tag be implanted in a person's body to track his every movement? There's actual discussion about that. You will rule on that, mark my words, before your tenure is over. Can brain scans be used to determine whether a person is inclined toward criminality or violent behavior? You will rule on that.
So that's actually Creepy Joe Biden himself talking about it, the fact that this is being rolled out. This is going to happen, Like, you're going to have to decide whether or not this is going to be allowed. Now, the states are going to fight this because there's... so you got to find that clip, though. It's not this one. It's actually right here. Yeah, so check this out. This is pretty...
Of the ID 2020 program, the ID 2020 Alliance, where they plan on testing microchipping of humans here in Austin with a microchip to store your biometric data. This is part of a global rollout that they want to test here in Austin, Texas. So we're going to find out if some of the local homeless here have heard about this and what they think about it, and if they would be willing to take the microchip as part of this program. Have you heard, sir, of the ID 2020 Alliance program?
No.
Would you be willing to take a microchip to get services?
Absolutely, positively not. Sounded a little bit 666 to me.
Do you receive any services from the resource center here?
Yes, I have a case manager.
Now, if they said that we're going to microchip you to receive services, would you be willing to do that?
No, I would not.
I think that's an invasion of privacy.
Excuse me, sir. Have you ever received services from this resource center here?
Yeah.
If they asked you to take a microchip to receive services here, would you do that?
No, I'm gonna be out on the street then. I'm gonna be on the street because I'm not putting nothing foreign into my body if God didn't tell me.
Does that sound like the mark of the beast?
That sounds a little scary, man. Like they think they own my body and they out of their mind. That's crazy. We talking about total mind control. And
have you ever received any services from this resource center?
Oh, yes.
If you were to be told you had to get a microchip to continue to receive services here, would you take that microchip?
Like in me or?
Yeah, they would put a microchip in you to store your biometric data.
No, I don't think I would do that.
Do you receive services
I
here?
like it. Man, I don't think I'll do it.
I work here, sir.
Have you heard of the ID 2020 Alliance? If you want to get services like this, or if say you have a run-in with police or something, they can just ID you with the microchip, and then that you just always have it in you. But that's the way that they would get you to do it, is to say, oh well, you can't receive services here anymore unless you get the microchip.
No,
yeah.
No like that.
That microchips are for animals and cattle and other like that. Not human.
Does that sound like the mark of the beast?
Yes.
That's like treating somebody like an animal or something.
Would you take the microchip?
No. I feel like if they put a microchip inside of you, they have access to everything.
You heard of the ID 2020 program?
Mm-hmm.
You have heard of this?
I heard.
When they want to microchip people down here?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I don't think
I
you do.
think it's good about it. It's good for them, but then they need to stop blowing their mouth on dope and get them somewhere to stay. We don't want no microchip.
Would you take a microchip to receive services? No? Okay, that's all right. Would you, if they said, hey, we're going to give you a microchip for you to receive services here, would you take it?
In your body?
Yes.
No.
Do you mind taking the camera off the property?
Yeah, we can do that. Just a real quick question. Have you guys heard of ID 2020?
So, I mean, if you can't convince, like, a bunch of homeless people, presumably some mentally ill people, crackheads, I mean, the guy goes on here in a second and says, oh, crack. It's actually kind of a
Microchip. Huh? What if in order to receive all of that, you had to take a microchip? Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah. You watch me wherever I go. Yeah.
You would take the microchip?
Yeah, I'll take a microchip.
Would you be willing to take a microchip to receive services here? No way? Put it inside of you. No?
Man, you better leave me alone.
No?
A microchip.
Yeah.
That sucker dead down.
Do that?
Microchip.
No.
Micro.
Yeah. You wouldn't do that?
Man, micro.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Micro.
I'm a crackhead. Welcome to the city.
What?
I love crack.
I love crack. I'm a crackhead in the city. Man. But that's, I mean, think about that. You can't convince these homeless people to put a chip in them in order to do it. You're not getting fair. I mean, that you can't convince the population, like in the States, to do that, because the whole kind of premise of the U.S. is antithetical to that kind of thinking. So the Chinese being able to do what they're doing with the people is because they've exercised that ability for the last 10,000 years. The the control systems that they've had in place forever and ever and ever, it's unreal. But the States doesn't have that. It was new. It was, kind of started based on the idea of getting away from taxation without representation and all those kind of things. So they're going to have a tough time trying to convince the States to actually buy into this stuff. And that's why I don't think that 5G tech is really going to roll out in the States. I don't think it's going to roll out. I think they're going to put it into a couple of cities. People are going to get brain cancer, and then they're going to be like, shut the thing down, man, can't do it. It's too much, too quick. And they're, we're going to see, but they're definitely pushing this stuff harder and harder and harder, especially as the tech gets cheaper and cheaper. But I want to cover this thing in the last part of the news, because we cover tech stuff, and sometimes we cover health stuff and like vaccine stuff. And one of the common things that they talk about vaccines is the fact that it doesn't contain live virus. That it doesn't. You can't get the disease from it because it's a dead version of the virus, right? Not true. And another thing too is like the polio vaccine is causing polio. False. Myth. That's a myth. Polio vaccine is not causing polio. It's impossible. It doesn't. Oops. Wait. Never mind. Rare polio cases caused by vaccine outnumbering wild virus infections. So there's actually, check this out, Pakistan, Nigeria, Congo, and Central African Republic and Angola reported multiple cases of polio linked to the oral vaccine. So far, 157 vaccine-derived polio cases have been reported globally this year, outpacing the 107 cases of polio virus in the wild. So there's wild polio virus that's out there that can exist in some cases, and if you get it, then you'll get polio. You'll likely get polio, and there's all the complications associated with that. Now, if you get polio inside of like a Western country, like in Europe or in Canada or in the States, the survival rate is near perfect. You're not going to have any problem. You're going to have minimal problems. If it's in one of these other countries, there could be a whole host of issues because of sanity and sanitation and things like that. That's really more the case. And education and just proper healthcare services, access to even hospitals when you need it, and medications and clean water, even just having clean water and clean sheets and warm sheets and stuff like that. So this is the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. These aren't like rich, affluent neighborhoods that have good sewage systems and stuff like that. Anyway, the main point here is the fact that there's more than half of all of the polio this year. Just this year, more than half the polio cases are actually vaccine derived. They're derived from the vaccine itself. Why? Okay, so let's look at why. There's this cheaper one that they give out, which is the oral one. You put 2 drops in your mouth, like you see in the picture here, and that's the vaccine. Now, it contains 2 types of viruses. It contains a dead version of the virus, which is common, that's used, and then it contains a wild virus that was essentially eliminated a long time ago, but that people don't really get sick from. So it's kind of like a cousin of the polio virus that doesn't really make us sick, kind of something like that along those lines. And basically, when they give that, that's actually going into the poop. They poop it out. The virus is still alive. It's actually a live virus. It's a living virus. They say it's a weakened version of the virus. All that means is that it's a mixture of the dead virus and live virus. So there's a certain ratio of dead to live. That's not weakened. It's not each individual virus is weakened. It's basically a dilution, more or less. But anyway, this thing is getting excreted by the body and mutating. The virus is mutating in the poop. So it's a live virus that passes through the system. Whether or not the body builds antibodies to it that has any benefit, who knows? But the messed up part is that there's actually biotech companies manufacturing the polio virus, keeping it alive so that they can keep vaccinating people. And they don't even know, they don't even realize that this live virus is turning it in mutating in the feces and stuff. And then actually coming into a super contagious version that they don't have a vaccine for. They can't vaccinate against that. So they're trying to figure out what to do with it, how to respond to it, because they spent billions of dollars on these vaccines and programs to give this, and they're still giving it to everybody. And it's actually the only cases that are really starting to bubble up are more of these cases than anything else. So it's just like when we heard this about superbugs. We've been hearing that for about 10 years now, probably 20 years now, superbugs. Prescribing too many antibiotics. Even for viral infections, you get a virus, a certain kind of virus, like, they'll say you got the, a flu or something like that. It's not, why would you take antibiotics? It's not microbial. It's a viral, right? So you need antiviral medication, not antibiotics. You know what I mean? So they started just giving antibiotics for everything. Oh, you get this, you get antibiotics, put you on antibiotics just to make sure. And what that was doing, that gets into the water systems and everything. These antibiotics actually change the ecosystem. And when they the bacteria and stuff, the germs and everything that we're actually getting sick from are mutating as a result because they're trying to survive. So the body's not kind of keeping in pace with them, kind of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's you push something near extinction, and then the only thing that's going to survive and flourish when you knock out that predator, the new predators are going to come in, and that's what these superbugs are. These kind of dormant bugs that are kind of kept in line by other bugs. And that's really what happens. Like you have this whole hierarchy of germs, and the lesser germs are actually kept in place by higher up germs. Same reason that your body is riddled with parasites and germs and bacteria and all these different organisms. You're more foreign organisms than you are your own genetic DNA. There's more of foreign stuff than there are of you. So if you took everything else out, you would fit into a glass. Like, that's how much stuff there is in us. And that whole microbiome in your gut, in your, the gut that's the bacteria that's just even in your gut for your digestive system, in your mouth, your spit, all this kind of stuff that's going on, in your hair, your skin, all this microbiome actually interacts with nature passively and has like this symbiotic relationship. So if you were to take out one germ, then you can get sick because that germ actually eats other germs, essentially. That's why it's not good to wash your hands all the time. You need this kind of microbiome. It's a force field. It's a kind of a natural force field, and it's the most reactive force field because the germs have to survive. So the things that kind of keeping you alive are things that want to survive themselves. So they're constantly trying to combat all the other stuff as well. That's why you see, like trees, the trees get the flu, right? Can a cat get the flu? Well, some things don't transmit or whatever, but if a virus tries to live in a host and it can't survive there, it's because of something. It's not just because it can't get its food, it's because the host rejects it. The host destroys it. So if you go sneeze on a tree, the tree's not going to start sneezing back because, well, physically why, but it's not going to, the virus won't harvest itself in it because it's too toxic for the virus. The virus can't live on the tree. The tree just has way too many there's too many things going on in the tree. The virus just gets over it, and that's the beauty. That's why you're supposed to eat local food. You're supposed to have a garden. You're supposed to eat food from the ground that you live on because there's a microbiome that is best matched for you in that case. So there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. So when they talk about viruses, vaccines, and they start talking about, we gotta get rid of, anti-vaxxers. Like, we can't let people talk about this on YouTube or on Facebook, and they're starting to ban that. You're not even allowed to talk about this stuff. If I go share this article on Facebook right now, they won't suggest it in my feed because they'll say, because Google reads this sentence here, rare polio cases caused by vaccine, that it just knows that it's negative towards vaccines. It's anti-vaccination content, and they will reject this content. And look, this is out of CBC. Actually from the Associated Press, but you can't share this content. It's not going to be shared. I can go post it on Facebook, and if someone goes to my page, they'll see it. But if someone tries to type this in on Facebook, you can't get it. You have to type it in exactly or visit the person's page directly. So it's just, people got to look at this stuff. They got to consider these things. If someone is taking vaccines, definitely read the variations that you're allowed to take. So if you're going to get polio vaccine or MMR vaccine, mumps, measles, and rubella, there's different brands. There's different kinds. There's different versions. Sometimes they have sprays, or they have needles, or they have this or that. There's a whole bunch of things that you can usually get access to. Some you have to pay versus are for free. But the worst thing they can possibly do is try to mandate this. Just like with the blockchain stuff, just like with 5G, you need to be able to opt out. If you can't opt out, it's game over. And I forget the expression. I forget what the quote's from. I don't know if Abraham Lincoln or something like that. But it's something along the lines that the Republic is one generation from being extinct. What we have today, what we practice today, is one generation from being extinct. In the sense of the way I interpret this is the morals, the things that you keep in line have to be passed down generation by generation by generation. You can't hop. If you hop, it's lost, it's gone. You can't get it back. It has to carry forward nonstop. And if we let the generation below us get away with the craziness that we see, like on the left and the right, for whatever angle you're looking at, if we just let people just steamroll stuff and just change things, blanket changes all over the place, it's gone. It's game over. You'll end up needing a revolution several generations later to try to get back to where you were. And usually that costs lives, but the price of freedom is death. So if you're not willing to sacrifice yourself for the freedom, there's not even going to be a fight. They've already won. So educate yourself, read all the stuff. Don't let them sell you convenience without understanding what they get out of it. Nothing's free. Everything's monetized. Everything's monetized. Everything's monetized. Everything's monetized. So take that how you want. Kind of creepy though, right? I was going to show you some robotic videos, but we're going to save that for next episode, because it's too much, man. It's just too much to look at one. You just feel like the whole world's coming to an end if you look at it in one shot. But the thing is, like we saw with those homeless people aren't willing to accept it. And if the bottom trenches of society aren't going to take it, it might be the opposite though. There might be all the rich kids and stuff that buy into it, that flip the system on them. But as long as you still got those bottom trenches of people, they'll bubble up to the top, no doubt about it. And I just don't think it's going to get very far in the States, but it's going to be something that the States has to go through in some kind of reckoning, especially in comparison to China, where they're actively censoring people, actively prosecuting people just for speech, recording everything, data analysis on everything. The government's into everything, controls everything. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope you liked it. Hope it wasn't too crazy. Give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, comment, hit the subscribe thing, and we'll see you on the next episode.